Accusations from former Niger Delta agitator Asari Dokubo against the Nigerian military is still generating reactions. Last week, he accused the Nigerian military of being behind 99% of oil theft in the country, an allegation the Nigerian military has denied, daring Mr. Dokubo to provide evidence to back his claim. According to him, the manner in which the oil thieves have gone about their criminal activities have stripped the people of the Niger Delta of their livelihood. In April 2023, the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative revealed that the country lost 619.7 million barrels of crude oil valued at 16.25 trillion naira to crude oil theft between 2009 and 2020. Mr. Dokubo also revealed that the president has promised to investigate allegations of oil theft in the country with serious consequences for offenders.
The military is at the center of oil theft. And we have to make this, the Army and the Navy intimidate the civil defense, who are by status the people who are supposed to guard these pipelines. They receive a lot of money from NNPC, PCL, and the IOCs, and just across the corner, you will see a houseboat. A few meters from the houseboat, you will see an oil bunkering refinery or tapping directly from oil wellheads.
Well, joining us in the studio to discuss more is convener Fix Nigeria Now, Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, retired. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thanks so much.
Good morning. Good to see you.
And joining us via Zoom is former Secretary General, Ijaw Youth Council, Alfred Kemekpado. Alfred, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Alfred, let me begin with you. I wonder what came to your mind when you heard Asari Dokubo make that statement. You understand what goes on in the Niger Delta, especially with regards to these matters of oil theft and even agitations of the people not benefiting from this oil in their domains. What do you say to what Asari Dokubo said?
Yeah, after what Asari Dokubo said, there has been this kabuki dance, yes it is not, another. But you see, there are very potent questions to ask. Let's start from the analysis you gave from Haiti, that the amount of revenue that has been lost is about 16.2 trillion naira. And before now, it has been blackmailed or assumed that the oil theft is being perpetrated by locals of the Niger Delta in the form of all these bunkering activities and all that stuff done by some little boys and old women. So the question you want to ask is, could it be true that 16.2 trillion naira worth of crude oil was being mined or bunkered by these local old women? So if that is the situation, where is the 16.2 trillion naira? Where are the skyscrapers in the Niger Delta? Where are the fantastic buildings in the Niger Delta owned by these individuals? You know, if you take analysis of the spending lifestyle of our people, our people know how to enjoy. You may have noticed that even in the Goodluck Jonathan's administration. So if you don't see it in the form of fantastic buildings, skyscrapers, and all that stuff, you see it in the kind of cars they drive, at least in the pubs. So I'm saying this to say that clearly the oil bunkering activities that has brought Nigeria to its knees is not perpetrated by these so-called little bunkers that these institutions of state show on national TV. The outfit manned by Tompula has shown that there is a large-scale oil bunkering activities by by top and very rich people from this country to outside of this country. Now, going straight to your question, for you to bunker that amount of crude oil, you come in with vessels that are 10 times your studio or even more. You may, I don't know if you have seen a vessel before, an oil tanker before. It is 10 times your studio or even more. So the question you will want to ask is it true that these vessels came into Nigerian waters on notice in presence of all the technology that has been deployed by the Nigerian military? You call it the Navy, and even and more of the Army, okay? Because when you come to the Niger Delta, yes, the duty of the Navy is territorial, so it's easy for you to whip the Navy into it. But the truth is, you have more military gunboats, Army gunboats, than naval ships in the Niger Delta, guiding the whole of this territorial environment. So you mean these ships came in, had this bunker anchored for days, if not months, took all this oil and sailed off, and it didn't show in any of our radars. It didn't show in our aerial view of everything. You can only tell that to a child. You see, there is a new administration, and the truth has to be said. If we join Asari to say, yes, it is this, the next thing you begin to ask is that we should bring evidence. The evidence are actually a simple question. If somebody locks a house with some goods and gives you the key, 2 hours later, it comes back, and only you have got access to that house, and things are missing. Let's approach it. Who has taken it? It's either you have taken it, or somebody has come to take it in connivance with you, because you are the only one who has the key to that door. These territorial waters in the Niger Delta mostly are protected and guarded by these officers, okay? And these amount of vessels, okay, like I said, with this size, 10 times, will just stroll in and stroll out. And you say, nobody knows. It's not true. That is the basic truth. So Asari is, by his own right, he has the authority to say what he has said, because Asari, like you know, has a good idea of the waterways, okay? But I don't want to put what he said on all officers, because within the military, there are also fantastic officers doing their jobs. But by and large, the truth is that their hands, they inside this pot of soup. It's not only Asari that has said it, it is Tompolo has also said it in one of his interviews. Other truths we may also need to ask is it true that when military officers are posted to the Niger Delta, they do a lot to sustain and keep themselves here? Is it true that they pay a lot and lobby a lot to post themselves here? Is it true that before now, most of them have been accused frontally, even by former governors and sitting governors, that they are involved in these things? You see, the more we say these things, the more you continue to access evidence. But what we are saying, the evidence or no evidence, will not just take up the Nigerian oil. It is putting a stop to these issues that will take up the production. And that is what we need to take revenue up for the government, so that the government can be attentive to the needs of the country. That's all.
Okay. All right, Colonel, I know you've been following this development, and when it comes to the way the system, the security system works, you have a vast knowledge of all of those. Now, to an average Nigerian, it looks like, actually, from the way it is said, that it is not possible to make that kind of a humongous stealing from a system and nobody is aware. It feels like that. But the point there is the nitty-gritty of it, because if you don't get to the Niger Delta, one may not have an appreciation of how things play out there. I wonder what's your reading or interpretation of all of these accusations against the Nigerian military in this area of oil theft or being complicit.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. Something I will actually take exception to is a situation where, excuse me, we want to ascribe the entire oil theft thing to the military. I will take great exception to that because I know that approving authorities for the quantity of oil we are talking about comes from above. If we ascribe, going by what Asari Dokubo, his ignorance and naivety said, 99%, could be ascribed to the military. Then what percentage do we ascribe to the component of those within the presidency who make the approvals? Ships don't come in from outside and load oil from within your shores and pull out that way without certain individuals, powerful individuals, approving certain things. Who is the Minister of Petroleum? What percentage shall we ascribe to the bosses in NNPC in the air-conditioned offices who approve these things? What percentage do we ascribe to the IOCs who collaborate in bringing in all these ships and so on? And so on and so forth, we will go on. Okay, there's a whole gamut of stakeholders involved in this. So to just jump up and say the military has 99% of it, I think that was where he goofed, as far as I'm concerned, frankly speaking. Fine, the military is assigned to take care of our territorial waters, and so by virtue of that and so on, they're also involved in the protection of these things and so on. That does not mean that we begin to look at the entire military as if they're all a bunch of criminals. I'm not here to take sides with anybody. I know it's my constituency, but let the truth be told, okay? And like it is, there are bad eggs in every organization. Let's face it. You could send boys out there to do a good job, but the bad eggs amongst them could do one or two funny things that might embarrass the organization or embarrass you and so on. We've all experienced it. We've all had leadership roles. You are playing leadership roles here too, and so on. So we should allow some level of objectivity to prevail when we talk. When you say 99%, you put some of us off completely. Okay? I have just listed out a whole roll of stakeholders that are involved in this. When we even say the presidency, nobody is looking at the president. The president will don't go down to steal, but those he has assigned to do certain jobs might be misbehaving. And of course, it is the presidency that takes whatever it is.
So in that instance where powerful people, like you put it, who signed this and signed that, by the time they give such kind of approvals and the deals are going on, are the hands of the military tied in that regard? How is the engagement? How does it work? If the military, of course, like you have put the record straight, of course, you could have bad boys here and there, bad eggs here and there. The signing of a vessel coming and going is not done by the military. Of course, we know that. It could be done by, people who are involved within the petroleum system. But when that goes on, how does the military play in between that space?
That is what I wouldn't be able to sit here and explain to you. The aspect I think I might want to explain is that maybe the role played by the locals, because I think that's the only component I didn't mention, and all those are listed here. The locals also play some roles. When I mean the locals now, I mean all these people who feel there are one or two jerrycans here and there and so on, and which to me does not really create any impact as far as the economy is concerned, because those one or two jerrycans which these boys carry is so infinitesimal.
Yeah.
The issue that is really disturbing our economy is those guys who come in tankers, which of course, like we all say, must be known to the authorities above. Otherwise, nobody will just move a tanker into the movement of every ship in the world, like we know, just like aircraft, can be tracked. Yeah. Can be tracked. Any ship or aircraft can be tracked. So there's no gameplay about it. Now, but if you say the bloody private soldier or lance corporal whom you detailed somewhere to do one thing or the other is conniving with some people who come around to want to fill one jerrycan somewhere and so on, we cannot outrule that. We cannot outrule that. Such things could happen. But it's not enough for us to want to look at the military high command and say you are involved in this. The only thing we can say is that the military high command should open its eyes widely, okay, and begin to see how they can take steps to, because within the military, I mean, there is enough capacity to deal with such situations. I mean, by virtue of discipline and so on. And the military can handle that, and they've been handling it. General Rabo is somebody who is very disciplined. I personally know him, even before I left service. He's somebody who does not take to such rubbish. These are people who can handle such situations and really fish out the bad eggs. And I want to believe by now they've been doing all that since all these issues begin to come up. They must have set their what do I call it now, their radar towards such direction. The Navy too should have been doing that by now, because I mean it tells on the image of the military. And then, if I may just chip in this, no country allows its military to be ridiculed, more so by non-state actors like Asari Dokubo, for Christ's sake. I even saw the level of, what do I call it now, the level of, accommodation he got at the State House when he visited. Look at where he granted that press conference. That is a villa press room, which is wrong. Very wrong. For those who understand what protocol is,
but why,
at that level.
But why would it be wrong? Wouldn't any Nigerian
have access to the press
to
conference?
his president do so?
No, I'm not saying it is wrong for him to have access to his president. If I want access to the president, I should also seek one. But I'm saying that there are certain things by virtue of protocol you don't allow. Okay? It would be very wrong of me, for instance, to snap a photograph now with the national coat of arms behind me and the Nigerian flag by my right, the defense flag by my left. It means I am the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic. These are some steps you should take. I know it's a new administration just taken up. You'll see a lot of falterings here and there which could be corrected, but the protocol officials should know what to do. That villa press room, it's not meant for everybody, for the commander-in-chief.
Right.
Those who have prevailed there will tell you quite well. There are places where you can take him to, and so on.
All right.
All right?
Right. Let's get back to Alfred. Alfred, you have listened to our guest in the studio, and I'm wondering if you have a reaction to that. And you also mentioned that there's been talk about putting forward evidence. And I am wondering, do you think that at this point, it isn't important to put forward evidence to back up whatever statement that has been made?
What I will say is, in the beginning of the interview, I told you about, let's not continue this, who did that, evidence and all of this stuff. But you see, I will just mention this to our most respected elder there. We're talking about bunkering activities that are found on thefts, stealing. These vessels that come into the Niger Delta to bunker this crude oil are hardly approved. They, as a matter of fact, invade the Niger Delta and by extension, the Nigerian territorial waters.
Do you have evidence
like
to prove that they just invade the Nigerian waters and that they were not approved?
You are asking me tough questions now.
No, because we have a mixed audience listening to us and they would want to understand that.
So if these vessels were approved, okay, to take this amount of crude oil that the NNPC, the NAIT that you have described here, then why are the NNPC, NAIT, and all these organizations, including the presidency, talking about stolen crude? Or you want evidence from me to hear that the crudes were stolen and that these crudes were bunkered out? You have been hearing this, all of this. So are you telling me that the federal government approved the movement of this oil and also described it as stolen crude, so much that they are giving out contracts to protect these things? This is very Catholic. This is basic knowledge. You and I, including Oga in the studio, we all agree that crude oil is being stolen and you think the federal government sat down somewhere to approve stealing. It's not true. In short, even before the stealing of this crude oil in the form of these bunkering activities and other stuff, don't forget that there have been remarks of who really accounts for the amount of oil that is leaving the country. And that's where you also begin to question the IOCs. How did this stealing even start? Is it even true? The amount of crude oil that is being declared that is leaving this country, even before the era of this wide stealing is what is declared, is more not taken. You know, these are questions we all need to ask. But like I said originally, there are fantastic officers in our military, but there are also areas that may have been compromised. And I also told you that if this whole house is guarded and the key is given to you for that protection and something goes missing inside, I said it initially, it's either it is you, someone from outside that you may have compromised, okay, to come in. So these are the truths. But you see, going forward to the solution, okay, let us begin to think how all of us as a body will begin to be more responsible. And let me also tell you, whether you call it the institutions of state, Nigerian military, or other, you can't really perfectly do this job without the stakeholders from the communities and where these oil facilities are. So there is need for an overall engagement, okay, of everybody to ensure that this is brought to the barest minimum. But I will not end this statement by saying that what Nigeria is bleeding from is a high-powered stealing. Okay, you may have seen it on the videos where pipes were connected to oil well heads. That takes a lot of time to do. That takes a lot of time to, it takes a lot of resources to do, it takes a lot of engineering to do. So the question would be, where were those that were constitutionally assigned to protect and over around these facilities? These facilities are not more than what they can over around when this construction was taking place, even before the stealing. You mean we didn't catch them in our radars? These are not excuses we can make. But you see, I would prefer that we go forward. Going forward is people being more responsible to their duty post, people being more responsible to the duties that are assigned to them, people involving the communities and other stakeholders so that they can build intelligence, okay, as to what happens, so that what the gunboats and the ships cannot see, the woman paddling in a canoe going for fishing can see and also inform the institution so that we can all bring this to the barest minimum, because at the end of the day, we are all casualties. But if we go around this issue of all of us trying to protect and defend our different pots of interest, it may not all go well. The truth is, something wrong is going on, and somebody is dropping the ball, and that ball has to be picked up. And it is true that the 16.2 trillion naira is not in the little woman that you arrested that is doing that oil bunkering that you call fire in the Niger Delta. 16.2 trillion naira. The NNPC said between January and March or June 2002, about $10 billion. By today's exchange rate, it's about 7.3 trillion naira was missing. And you think that money was bunkered by some people in the Niger, that's a black in the Niger Delta, and we are not seeing the skyscrapers, we are not seeing the fantastic cars, we are not seeing in the pubs and the markets. That's not true. So there is an international oil cartel clearly bunkering this oil out of the Niger Delta. And all the stakeholders along this chain of bunkering must be held to account. That is the truth, okay? I don't want to come here and say it is this, it is that, before you begin to ask me evidence, because I'm not expecting you to ask me evidence when the federal government is telling you that these crudes have been stolen. It is not an approval. If it is an approval, it will not be described as stolen crude. Even the president cried that it is, I mean, when I say cried, I'm not talking about tears. That is, the president spoke out that their crudes are stolen. Neti said crudes have been stolen. NNPC said crudes have been stolen. And you are asking me for evidence.
You were the one that said that it wasn't,
fact.
you don't want to talk about evidence or no evidence, but the military is asking for evidence, and you also made a statement, and I needed you to let us understand because of the viewership we have, to understand, to back your statement with facts. You need to back your statement
I get what
with
you mean.
facts.
I get what you mean. Let us assume it is not even the military. You expect me to carry this my fat head, enter a canoe boat, go to the deep offshores of Bayelsa, rivers of Delta, and see a humongous tanker stealing crude oil with people guarding it with arms and begin to snap it and video it and bring it here. And you think I'll be alive to say this interview to you? The evidence is that our crude are not differ. Okay, and this is not good. And I don't want us to just drop it at the doorstep of one institution. Okay, because like we must show respect to those who have worked hard to keep this country together, keep this country. We must also show respect to those who have also worked hard to ensure that all was not stolen. Because if some and some other stakeholders did not work hard, okay, enough, maybe all would have been stolen and you would have had nothing. So we must show respect to people who have done that. But at the end of the day, we must also deny the fact that this is happening in the Niger Delta.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, and to the detriment of our environment.
All right, Alfred, because that is what the colonel was saying in the studio. He's saying that, there's a long value chain, and you mentioned, in fact, you said the value chain, the entire chain from the top, where all of these things. But let me bring it to the colonel. Now, the President Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces Federal Republic of Nigeria, from the report we get, he receives security intelligence reports on daily basis, which means that he is like the God who sees everything that is happening within the country. If he gets intelligence reports, we want to assume, setting a scenario, he gets intelligence report of what's going on in the Niger Delta, the piracy, the dimension by which some of these things happen. Yet, we know that when it comes to crude oil theft that deprives him of funds to carry out his programs, he is concerned, or he should be concerned, and so on. Yet, some of these kind of reports come. Sometimes, even in the report, we understand that there could be names of persons, names of people, names of institutions, whatever, in the report. Yet, we don't see heads roll. Speak to us. Is the government helpless? Is the commander-in-chief helpless? Or is it trying to protect his... Speak to us. How does that work?
You have just gone to an area I really would love us to address here. The inability of our government. In this case, I'm looking at the past government now, because this one is just barely 1 or 2 weeks old. We must be fair to the guy. The inability of our government to prosecute. It's not just only in this theft thing. How many Nigerians have been prosecuted? For the first time after years now, we're just hearing of one MFL being picked and one EFCC. In the past, the government has been sleeping, like we all know. When I mean sleeping, I mean really sleeping. We've never had a government. I'm sorry to say this, because I'm a concerned citizen, and I feel embittered that my great country is being run like some beer parlor. We don't have a government in place. Otherwise, if we, all along the last 8 or even 15 years, been prosecuting individuals seriously with strong sanctions, some of these things would reduce. But this is a country where you can do anything you want to do. There are no sanctions. Nobody's going to hold you responsible. In fact, a friend of mine was saying the other day that he wish he had an appointment in the last administration. He would have bundled his own billions in dollars, because this time I don't talk of naira again, in dollars, and go. Look at the amount that was said to have been found in MFLA's house and so on. If it's in the last administration, nothing would happen. In fact, the man would tell you, you're wasting your time. That's the sort of Nigeria we've run all this while. And that's why things continue to degenerate the way it is, to a point where some Nigerians just feel so tired, and they just say, look, can I just go out of the country and sort myself out? Hypertension will kill me here. So that is it, sir. Thank God we are beginning to enter a new phase, whether it is temporary or not, because we are still at the courts and so on. All the point is that we are beginning to enter a new phase. I want to believe that the leadership in this new phase, that as we are approaching, by now already understands what our problems are as a country. What are those steps, or what are those things we have not been doing that have taken us years back? Can we begin to do them? Can we begin, if we want to fight corruption, can we just fight corruption? And not to just have it on paper, that is one of our 3 points. Corruption, economy, infrastructure. They will go to sleep. Meanwhile, corruption became worse under an administration that claimed it wants to fight corruption. We must look at these things. Nigerians don't really care who is there. Can you just deliver for us? Can you create a better Nigeria for us, for our children? Maybe some of you are still young. Some of us are in our 60s. When you look back, you ask yourself, what am I bequeathing to my child? What sort of a Nigeria is it coming to take over? And these kids are already asking some of us questions. Fine, you were never a minister, but did you speak out? Or you just stayed there, Mumu, and you were looking too? So you are part of the bunch, the silent bunch that allowed for criminality to thrive in our country, because you refuse to say nothing, because you don't want to be seen as being as opposing government or doing one thing or the other. And that's why some of us decide to speak out.
Stepping on toes.
Yes. That's why at times some of us speak out. Out of annoyance, you even overstep the bounds too. Because it's your country. You become quite emotional about it. You're not just talking about some Togo and Benin Republic. This is Nigeria, where it starts with me and ends with me, and my kids too. I don't have 2 passports. Those who have are already opting out. So please, thank God, those who should be listening, because it appears there are some listening ears from what we are seeing happening. We just pray so, okay? And it's unfortunate that we have now handed over our decision of who will be our leaders to the courts. So it's no longer you and I that decide anymore. So it makes you begin to say, it's a temporary situation. Let's see what it turns out to be for us. Otherwise, one would have begun to advise the new government, whether it is Obi, whether it is President Asiwaju, and so on, that look, this is the way forward. Look at what we should be doing. You can
still state that now, because at the moment he's the one, and he's the president.
Yeah, at the moment he's the one, because the Constitution does not give us any room for vacuum. So we must give him all respect as Mr. President until the court speaks. Otherwise, he is our president.
So what advice are you giving the president to addressing these matters now?
My little solutions, first and foremost, border on the fact that there is a need for us all as Nigerians to have a change of mindset. Okay? There is this idea that, look, once you're appointed into government, oh boy, go and get your own. Forget these people. We must begin to look at a better Nigeria. All right? And if we begin to look at a better Nigeria, some of our attitude towards all this will change. All right? Going by what we see happening with the locals who are involved in all this and all the little refineries here and there, they are pointing to government that, look, we can even refine our oil here. How many of the vehicles that have been fueled from the local refineries in Niger Delta have complained or suffered breakdown? They operate very well. During the elections, I was in places like, what's it called, Ben, what's the state?
In Bayelsa?
Bayelsa, thank you, sir. And so on, all right? I moved around a lot with my principal. And we saw a lot of things that was happening. And life was going on. So we should look inwards and see how we can begin to refine our oil. Thank God Dangote has come as a saving grace. But we should be ashamed because we're a country. With 4 refineries, you are praising Dangote every day. What is wrong with your refineries? What is the option of having the modular refinery thing, which could emerge in the Niger Delta. We just keep people in poverty unnecessarily when we could have opened up the space. For heaven's sake. I saw the level of poverty in Niger Delta and I was not happy. I wasn't happy. I'm from the north. But I tell myself, if all this oil comes from this place and these guys are like this, something is wrong with us in this country. Something is really wrong. This is man's inhumanity to fellow mankind. What is this? Nigeria? With all the wealth we have made? These guys are still in this condition? Haba Jaba. Haba. I can understand if it's my dry north where nothing is happening. Okay? Pipeline surveillance, we should be able to bring in some of these companies to oversee pipeline surveillance, like what they are doing with Tompolo and so on. Bring in more of these companies, provided you have gone through their profile them enough, and they can play a very good role. Bring those that have the capacity. What stops some of them from acquiring helicopters and do some aerial surveillance? And so,
in fact, some people said that is part of why Asari Dokubo went to see the president as a way of being one of those to get some of those kind of contracts.
Yes, I will not be surprised. Anyway, he too wants to play Tompolo's role and so on. Fine, if he has the capacity, okay. But we all know that these are the same guys who used to be behind some of these things. So you take them with a pinch of salt and really watch them too. Our security agencies should keep close watch at them, because I really don't I'm not in good terms with most of them. What of the leakages in detecting, devices that could be used in detecting leakages? Technology, my dear. Okay? We should introduce all this. We hesitate so much in introducing technology in this country. I don't know why. I have discussed that with a good number of my colleagues in the military. I expect things like drones to be all over the place. During the political time, during the campaigns, see the way these politicians were using drones. I said, and we are not introducing drones seriously in the military, even at battalion level. Drones should be something which, look, it's no big deal. It's no longer a big deal. Yeah. It was 5-10 years ago, not now anymore. Not now anymore. Most of your organizations, media houses, use drones.
Of course.
Yes.
Some of the media houses who brought in applied drones. I said, Jesus Christ. What's keeping us in the military from using most of these drones? And today, in the advanced country, my dear, they have developed drones that can even not just carry out surveillance. They can pick out the enemy, engage. You just remain in your control room and take notes, and so on. And you tell the drone what to do, pressing all the required buttons. We could do some of this.
Although there are reports that the Nigerian Air Force had invented some drones and have deployed some that have successfully carried out some reconnaissance and other kinds of operation in the theater anyway.
Please, let's do. And then, of course, government must take steps to see how we can reduce the poverty level. Some of all this fuel thing, especially with the low gas, has to do with poverty. How much of exploitation are we doing in our, economic fundamentals, like mining, entertainment, and so all these are areas that really can go up in a lot of youths usefully, entertainment especially. We are doing well. This government should exploit that. When I look at this, I sat in church yesterday with some very fine, good artists. You know them with all their funny hair and so on. Well, I no longer care about that again, because I know they are productive. I know they are productive youths. Leave him with his dressing. I know he is good. I appreciate them, shake their hands. And unlike before, when I just turn my military eyes and say, don't mind all this. But now I appreciate them.
Right.
They are doing a good job.
Amazing.
Okay. Right. Let's get back to Alfred to get his thoughts on how government should address this matter. Alfred, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
I am not asking you for evidence now, but talk to us. How should government move forward with this matter of oil theft? Yes, we know that Tompolo has a contract with government to overseeing some of these pipelines. What more should government do to build on that?
Okay, let me say something. It's difficult for me to talk because of highly respected elder, Stan, in the studio. But let me just say this. How much is the salary of a private soldier as we speak? I'm sorry to say this on air, but it's less than 100,000 naira. It's about 50,000 naira. Then I think they have some other allowances they call about grumbling allowances that takes it up to about 70,000 naira. Okay? That's so if a corporal up to a sergeant, you earn about just 100,000 naira. So the question you want to ask is, what is the motivation of that soldier in the current reality of this Nigeria? What would 100,000 naira do for a sergeant who may have spent nothing less than 10 to 15 years in the army with a minimum of maybe 2 or 3 children? So the Nigerian state, I'm not talking about the Nigerian military now, the Nigerian state needs to give attention to the welfare of serving officers. And they need to begin to deploy whatever it takes to up the motivation of these officers so that they can attend to these duties as assigned. You see, when you shout corruption, 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 the government in itself is guilty of how it has treated officers. How much is the salary of a major? How much is the salary of a captain? Okay, I'm not talking. So for government to address all of these issues around the Niger Delta and to hold the military and other institutions to account to ensure that these invading vessels do not come to steal our oil, you must, as a matter of fact, attend to the welfare of officers. Okay? In this case, we are talking about the military. This I also speak for the police, but not for this particular topic. That's number one. Number two, there must be communal engagements. Okay? Like Oga said in the studio, poverty lives with us here in the Niger Delta because the wealth is taken away. So how much of our communal participation is in this oil production, exploration, and exportation? That must be attended to. If our communities are well taken care of, you don't need any form of surveillance. They will protect what is taken care of them by themselves. There are standards that you can watch everywhere. There are standards that you can copy everywhere in the world, okay? So our communities must be involved, okay? Then the IOCs must be held to account. The IOCs are taking advantage of Nigeria and its dysfunctional system, its unaccountable system. The president must also look at this thing. Let me also tell you, because time may not be on our side.
Yes,
okay?
quickly, please.
For this country to move forward, we must begin to rethink Nigeria, not from the way it's supposed to be. I'll give you an instance. From this issue of petroleum subsidy, the questions I have asked, why must we domicile the importation of refined petroleum products as it is now with just the NNPC? Can we not liberalize it? Can we not say state government?
All right, Alfred, if you could just quickly wrap your thoughts up in about 20 seconds.
We have argued that over-centralization of our systems has become a problem. So even in the security of these oil facilities, can we not decentralize it and begin to also involve states? So these are questions we must also ask. I'm not saying this is what it is, but this is a way to further interrogate these issues so that we can have a system that works, that is subject to constant review.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Former Secretary General, Ijaw Youth Council, Alfred Kemekpado, as well as convener Fix Nigeria now, Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, retired. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.